Hi there, and welcome back to Quarantine News. My name is Diban Bajaj. Today you're in for a special treat. We have two very special guests. Jasmine and Julia are going to talk about their experiences during Hurricane Sandy and how it affected their homes in Long Island. Hi Julia, thanks for tuning in today. Why don't you start off by telling us about your experiences during the hurricane?
Good morning. I'm happy to be here to provide my insight on this Category 3 hurricane that affected my community so drastically not too long ago. For those of you that don't know, this hurricane was very detrimental, with a death toll of at least 149 and 42 of them being from New York. The damages were irreparable, with wind speeds up to 80 miles per hour, leaving trees, sidewalks, and even some houses uprooted. Not too far from us, New York City was also left in shambles. Streets were flooded, and from Times Square to Queens, the morning commute was almost impossible to make. One of the benefits of living on the South Shore of Long Island are you are only a barrier away from the Atlantic Ocean, and that barrier is called Fire Island. But when the hurricane hit, it created a breach in the island, bringing unintroduced tidal flows and wildlife from the ocean into the Great South Bay. This created flooding on the coast and created issues into the Great South Bay. Most of my relatives live on the South Shore, and my aunt lives on the water, so she suffered severe flooding. And even a month after I came to visit, there were still boats that were halfway underwater.
Julia, a question for you. Was your family prepared for the storm?
In order to prepare for the storm, we ended up buying a generator because the power would go out. Then we would buy non-perishable food items, and we'd stock up, and we'd also help out our community. So if our elderly neighbors needed help, we would join with them. And my basement ended up flooding, so we ended up getting help with that. I remember Hurricane Sandy occurred during Halloween time, so to remain safe, my parents just came trick-or-treating with me when I was 12, and I joined my friends, and you kind of stay local and stick together with everybody, so just in case any trees fell, you would still remain in good hands.
Thank you, Julia. Jasmine, tell us about your experience.
I just wanted to thank you so much again for giving Julia and I the opportunity to be on the show and to convey our professional knowledge and experiences about the hurricane season, to hope that people will be better prepared for it in the future. So first and foremost, as Julia said, and I'll reiterate, this hurricane was completely detrimental to our community, specifically Suffolk County, Long Island. And when people think Long Island, I personally don't think that they associate it with New York. Just because of how the media portrays it, often it is seen as a separate entity, which it kind of is, but all in all, we're all part of New York. So people don't usually think that Long Island was hit very bad with this hurricane, but we truly were. I'm just going to share a little bit about my experiences. And to start, I just wanted to let you guys know that I was only 12 when this hurricane hit. So that being said, I was very immature, and I really didn't think of the long-term issues that this hurricane would bring. So since I was only 12, all I truly cared about before the hurricane hit was school being canceled or still being able to see my friends. And as egotistical as it sounds, that's how most people my age, or maybe even a little bit older than me, thought, because we had never had anything like this hit us before. So that was one issue. And on top of that, we did minimal preparation in my family. We didn't really stock up. We didn't really invest in a generator, which turned out to be one of the most important things, as we lost a lot of power. And it may not seem like a big thing, it may seem like a first world problem, but it truly really disconnected us from the world, and it made things, everyday tasks, very hard. As the storm got worse, it also physically started to take a toll. One of the most memorable experiences of this storm for my family and for me personally, which seems kind of small today when I think about it, or maybe even when you hear about it you'll think the same thing, but I'll never forget it. We had a giant tree in my backyard, and my room is actually right above where I'm sitting right now, and we're at the corner of the house. There was a giant tree in my neighbor's backyard facing my room, and when the hurricane hit, the peak of the storm was at night, and it flung into the roof right over my room and cracked my ceiling and split apart my wall above my head. I woke up not really knowing what was happening, and it started to crack even more as I woke up and I started realizing what was happening. The wall didn't fall on me. I was totally fine. I'm safe. I'm here today. But it was very scary for my family. And it was one of the first issues that we saw about this hurricane, and it really showed us how horrible it can be. So one more thing I wanted to say was a source called the Insurance Journal reported that in areas where there are significant bodies of water, the storm surge potential is greater because as a volume of water is funneled into a narrow area, water heights will definitely be increasing. So that can speak to the fact of our flooding issue during this time. I don't personally remember my streets being flooded that bad, but I know areas around me were super flooded. So that's another part of it.
Wow, Jasmine, Julia, thank you for that insight. I'm sure the viewers are finding this very helpful. Any thoughts you girls have for the viewers in terms of how we can be better prepared in the future for hurricanes?
Yes, I definitely have some recommendations for people to be better prepared for these hurricanes as hurricane season is approaching. Invest in a generator. Losing power may seem like one of the lowest things on the list for your survival during these times, but if you have power, you can go forth with a lot of other preparation or maybe even like survival methods. Like you'll be able to call for help if you need it, that kind of thing. So one more other thing I would like to recommend to you guys is to really, I know it sounds redundant, but to stock up on foods that you don't have to cook, because in the event of losing power and if you don't have a generator, your stove might not work or your microwave might not work. And what are you going to eat if all of your perishables are gone? So I recommend that. And although we did not reach that extent in Hurricane Sandy in our county, I know it might happen in the future. And for people that are in areas very susceptible to these hurricanes, you should be stocking up, especially before, usually before these hurricanes happen, there are warnings put forward. So when you get those warnings, think of these and think of me and Julia and what we're recommending for you to do.
Thank you for that. And now, breaking news on the coronavirus and its impact on our local community. 2 Long Island moms get into a fist fight over the last roll of toilet paper.